Hey, good morning. Happy Saturday. Earlier, I posted on social media, if you can't look back on your younger self and realize you were an idiot, well, honey, you're probably still that idiot. And that is so true. Now, I have gotten some comments, but the negative comments have been from people outside the United States. People in Egypt and India don't understand. So let's just kind of clue everybody in what it's like growing up in the United States. Now, I'm going to be 65, so I'm talking back in the 60s and the 70s. It was a very safe time. Kids could play outside at night because you would go out and play. You came in when the streetlights came on. You would come in when mom and dad yelled, that it's time to eat. You didn't have to know exactly where your child was every second because it was a safer time. Kids would take off on their bikes and ride their bikes all afternoon, knowing that, when it got dark, they had to come home. And nobody really worried about it. You weren't scared your child was going to be shot, kidnapped, assaulted, beaten. There weren't those fears. Now, for kids that grew up in the country, they had even better freedoms, my opinion, because they would finish the chores, because everybody had chores. And then they could go fish all day. Maybe they would go fishing and camping with a group of friends. And, they would come home sometime the next day. Those were the freedoms. And it was just kids being kids. You didn't have to worry like you do now. And when my son was growing up, now he was born in 1979. And so when he was in high school, he had some, a great group of friends that I am still sort of in touch with at times. Wonderful kids. And they would go to the lake every weekend. So on Friday, all the parents would, I would fry chicken and make, homemade bread and biscuits and cinnamon rolls and lasagna. All the parents would chip in and do cooking, and the kids would come by, pick it up, pick up their bag, and head to the lake. And we wouldn't see them again until probably 6 o'clock Sunday. Those were the freedoms. Now, I'm sure mischief was involved, but I know the kids. I know the police were never called. I know nothing bad ever happened. No one was ever hurt because I knew the kids. So that was part of it, is knowing your child's friends. Back in my day, the worst thing, I tried to think the worst thing I ever did. So in high school, now this is back in the 70s, we didn't have, the driver's license didn't have photos. There were no photo IDs. So you had to have a voter ID card or a driver's license to get into a bar. Now, clubs and bars are back then nothing like they are now. It was just beer. That was it. So my junior and senior year, I was dating a guy that was in college, and very nice, very, very nice young man. And he wanted to take me to this club, it was a bar. He said, and he knew I was underage, can you get an ID? I said, not a problem. So there was a girl in one of my classes, I think her name was Beth, but she was already 18. So she had a driver's license that showed she was 18. So she would share her voter ID card with people. And so you kind of had to sign up and, take your turn. But I would get it and we would go. And that was that for me, that was being big and bad. And one night we're there and they have a band, and it was just so cool. And you can, you're underage and you're having beer, and it's just really something. And somebody sent a pitcher of beer over to our table. And the guy I was with said, who sent the beer? I don't know. And the waitress pointed. My older brother, 9 years older, had come in. And he sent over a pitcher of beer. And I waved and said thanks, and he comes over. And he was cool. He was fine. He introduced himself. Hey, you guys have a nice time. Just wanted to be friendly. He's letting me know, hey, I know where you are. I know what's up. Behave. And that was never a worry in my world. But that was as big and bad as I got. But that was just youth. In high school, a group of us, I'm telling tales now. I'm telling on some of us stuff that happened back in high school. A group of us, after a football game, I think there were 5 or 6 of us, went to the town water tower. And it was around midnight. And the guys, the thing in our high school was to climb the water tower every year, and you would spray paint your names on the water tower. That was the cool thing. Every senior class did it. It was part of it. You got to do it. So we did it. Now, the girls did not climb the water tower. The guys wouldn't have that. But the guys did climb the water tower. I will not say their names, but they did. They climbed the names. They spray painted our names, and green paint was in the air. We all got covered with green spray paint. And I got home. My mom was waiting up, and she said, "Do I want to know why you're covered with green paint?" And I said, "No, ma'am, you don't." She said, "Okay," because she knew that it wasn't anything serious. But that was it. Back then, it wasn't destruction of property or anything like that. It was just, okay, the senior class is going to do this because they do it every year. My son's school, when he graduated high school, they did something similar, down at, it was a different state, but they did something just as stupid. Do we look back now and think, oh my God, climbing a water tower at night, no flashlights, how stupid is that? Would these guys do it today? Probably not, because I don't think none of them would want to get their suits messed. But, that was just then. So you look back on your youth like the stupid shit we did. College. Those of us that went to college, frat parties, parties after the game, they weren't crazy frat parties like they are now. It was just primarily beer. But, you had to experience it. It was just part of it, part of the experience. Looking back, I don't think I ever did anything, that was dangerous or risque or anything like that. But have there been times that I probably had too much to drink? Absolutely. Absolutely, back in the day. Did I? Now, the big thing is, for a lot of parents, you have children. Do you want them to know that you were human and you went through this? That's a mixed bag, because I talk to people about this. Their kids will get into mischief. Something will happen, and the parents come to me, and it's, oh my God, my kid did X, Y, Z, and, it's the worst thing ever. Well, tell me about when you were growing up. Oh my God, the stories I hear that the parents did. I said, well, have you told them? Oh, they don't need to know that. Honey, they do. Tell them. They need to know you are human. They need to know that you went through this, that you understand. That is going to bring you so much closer. Talk to them. Share the stories. Laugh with them. When they come in and they tell you, hey, I've done X, Y, Z. This isn't good. They come in, they're obviously underage and they're hungover. They're not high, they're drunk. Next morning, they're not going to feel so good. Next morning, you need to have a little chat with them and tell them, that we're not going to do this again. But explain to them, hey, been there, done that. I remember when I did X, Y, Z and how I felt and what your grandparents did. And that lets them know you're human. That lets them know you get it, that you understand, and you might actually laugh about it together. But share your stories with them. Let them learn from your mistakes, bottom line. Do not try and clip your child's wings. Don't set on them so that they don't repeat your mistakes. Because some people have had a rough upbringing. I know people that have been on the streets since they were 10 and 12 years old. And that's hard. That's really hard. They literally raised themselves because parents were in and out of jail. Nobody was there to take care of them. Nobody cared. Okay. So they have kids, and sometimes they come down really hard on their kids. They are beyond helicopter parents because they know what they got into. Honey, that doesn't mean your child's going to do the same thing. Give your kids some freedom. Explain what's happened in your past. They need to know. Let them share in the memories. It's going to bring you guys closer together. But look back at your past. Look back at some of the parties you've thrown. I was thinking about that before I did the video. In high school, my parents said I could throw a party. It was a nice party. There were a lot of people at this party. And my parents were surprised. And we lived out in the country in a very beautiful area on an acreage. And a lot of people showed up. And I don't know everything that happened because I pretty much stayed in the house, with the guests and everything. But the next day, yeah, we were finding beer bottles in the bushes and other things. And I was in some trouble. Now, I'm not the one that put the beer bottles there and the other stuff, but it was my party. It was my responsibility. I was on cleanup duty. And it took an entire weekend to clean up everything from what, kids were tossing on the ground and in the bushes and such. But share the story with your kids. Would I do that today? Oh, honey, please, when I have a dinner party now, for one thing, people aren't getting drunk and throwing anything anywhere. Am I a good hostess? Absolutely. Do I throw a good party? Oh, honey. But we don't behave like an idiot. So look back at your youth. What have you learned? Share it with your kids. Laugh about it. That's what it's all about.